Okay, let's start by running a get process. So I'm going to do a get process. I'm going to pipe this to more just so we can see our columns here. So in this, we'll see we have our process name, our ID, our CPU, our working set, our page memory, our non-page memory, our handles. Okay, let's say I want to customize this output. And what I want is I want to give the process name. I want to give the user who's running the process the amount of memory they're using and the number of CPU cycles that it's used. All right, if I want to, now we've talked before about how this output that we have right here is defined by the formatting rules inside PowerShell. Now, let's say I want to do my own that's going to include all of those things. So I'm going to do a get process. Now, if I want to include the name, I actually have to do something weird with get process. I have to do the parameter include user. I'm going to go ahead and pipe that to more so we can see that. And that's going to give us our username as well. Okay, now I want one other thing to be aware of, by the way, when we do that, these columns here, working set and kilobytes, CPU and seconds, these are custom formatted columns in PowerShell. So what I want to do is I want to use the actual column name with the data that we want is going to be working set and it's going to be CPU. So this is what we're going to have. Let me clear this screen. It's going to be get process include user. I want to pipe that to select object and I want the name, the username, actually, let's do it this way. Let's do the name, the working set, which is going to be our memory, the CPU, and then the username. And pipe that to more. Okay, that gives us the data that we needed. However, we're using working set, and that records memory in bytes. The the custom formatting that we used before did it in kilobytes. Now I actually want to change that to megabytes. And then I want to rename this to be process name, and I want to rename this to just be user. So I'm going to change some of my columns. I'm going to change the name of these two columns, and then this one I want to divide it by 1 megabyte. All right, so let's talk about how we can do this. This is one of the more interesting, let's use that term, interesting constructs in PowerShell. So for my object name, I want this to be process name. So I'm going to do @ and open curly brackets, and that tells PowerShell we're doing some custom work here. N equals, that says the name or the label. I'm going to put this in quotes. I want to say process name. So this tells PowerShell we're going to do some custom work here. This indicates the label equals, and then we're going to do that in quotation marks. We're going to do a semicolon, E equals, so name and expression. And the expression is going to be in curly brackets again, $_ period name. And then I'm going to close curly brackets twice. So let's take a look at this. N says this is the name of this column. The E, the expression, this is what the data in the column is going to contain. This curly bracket, these inner ones here, says this is how we're going to calculate what this is. And the outer curly brackets block off the entire column definition. So the $_ period says take a look at every object in the pipeline, and for that object, $_ means current object. Period name says look at the current object, give me the name. So if I type this all correctly, what we get is this. We now have process name instead of name. For over here in username, I just want to do user. So I'm going to do the same thing I just did, except I'm going to do here, it's going to be the @ open curly brackets, N equals, and by the way, I can type name or label or L. I like N for short. And this is going to be user. And then semicolon to separate the name from the expression, E equals, open curly bracket for the expression, $_ period, username, and closing curly brackets twice. So that should give me my user and my process name. All right, the working set is going to be a little more entertaining because for this, I want to take these values here and I want to divide them by 1 megabyte. So I'm going to clear this and we're going to do the same thing, just a little more entertaining. Not too bad though. @ open curly brackets, n equals, and I want to call this memory. Semicolon to separate the name from the expression, e equals, open curly brackets to define the expression, $_ period, working set, and then I want to take that and I want to divide that by 1 MB. And 1 megabyte is a constant that PowerShell has. So megabyte, kilobyte, gigabyte. And I want to specify my memory is going to be in megabytes. All right, hit enter, and this now shows our process name, our memory in megabytes, our CPU time, and our user. Now, one thing to be aware of is just something you can know. I did this all in the select object commandlet. So in the select object, I'm selecting specific columns that I want to see, specific properties of my objects. And then that's where I can format them. Now I can also do this exact same little construct thing here inside a format table or a format list or something like that. So it's the exact same syntax, I just do it inside format table rather than inside format list. Okay, there we go. By the way, once you do this, these are going to stay. So let's say I want to sort object by CPU in descending order. Pipe that to more. So it does the sorting, but all of my column headers, all of my calculations stay the same. So once I do that in the select object, then it'll stay through the rest of my pipeline as well. Okay, there we go. We have it. We have done some custom formatting of columns in PowerShell.